Hi, Julie.
Hi, Kathryn. So happy to be with you.
Yeah, absolutely. We always have such great conversations here on the podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the value of living binge free. And this
Hmm.
is something you share in the group a lot. And we just wanted to bring it to all the podcast listeners as well, because there is absolutely so much value in living without binging.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. And it's like the word value, right? Like importance, but also value in terms of all of these costs that people maybe aren't conscious of when they're engaged in binging and overeating. Right. And so I really wanted us to kind of explore all of those, because there's like the value that you gain back in the physical mental realm. There's the value you gain back in the time realm. There's the value you gain back in the relationships realm. And then there's the value, in the truest sense of the word in time, in terms of money, finances, productivity, all of that stuff. So I just thought like there's so much to explore with this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I know that we've both been there and we've seen what it cost you to binge. And we've seen the cost
Mm,
in terms of the loss of time, the loss of energy, the loss of money, the loss of opportunities. I mean, it's just so much that it takes away. And a lot of us are more focused on those costs, right? Like this is ruining my life, but we also want you to see the other side of that, like what you'll gain and what are the benefits and what is the value when you give all that up.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So, I mean, that's a great point. And I thought that, let's just start like if it's okay, like let's just look at the cost because,
Mhm.
I think that for most people, the only thing that they think about is how it makes them feel physically, generally speaking, and like how can I fix this? Like it's a food problem and how can I fix this? And like that's generally in the beginning, right? Like when we're dealing with recovery, there's that awareness that like I'm binging, I'm overeating, and so there's a physical cost, but not looking at like all of the ramifications beyond that. And I think it's good um, to really hone in on really what the cost is, getting familiar with that, accepting the futility of that, and then looking at solutions. And, I shared this, one of my favorite James Baldwin quotes with the group, and I think it's very applicable here. So I'll just say it here. But, he said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And so it's like really taking stock of all of the costs of binge eating, not to get you down, but to say, like, this is a behavior that I've been engaging in. This is a habit that I've been engaging in with the best of intentions over time, but it's not serving me. And let's look at all the ways that it's not serving me so that then we can flip it and figure out solutions.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think in the moment, your lower brain, your urges to binge will say, this is a way to feel better. This is what you need. This is what you want. But when you really step back and look at your life and what it's costing you, it allows you to see those thoughts, those urges to binge as false messages from the brain. So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, we've already mentioned a few of them, like your time, your energy, your, I think, presence in life, like the ability to
totally.
focus on your life. And I'm sure you could share more.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like if we just go like physical, mental costs, right? Like how it impacts sleep, right? And then sleep impacts everything else, right? So when you're sleep deprived, all of the systems in your body don't work as well. Plus, your appetite gets dysregulated from that sleep deprivation. So, there's the impact on sleep, there's the impact on digestion. And we've done podcasts where we talk about like the gut brain axis and that inflammation in the gut leads to inflammation in the brain. And then in general, binging is such an inflammatory behavior. And then comes the low mood, the despair, the hopelessness, the depression, the brain fog, that binge brain that we did a whole podcast on, right? So, like, there's all that physical cost. And then with time, binging takes up a lot of time. Like it's a lot of time. You got to shop for the food. You got to eat. So you're procuring food. And sometimes it's, I mean, if it was me, it was like multiple sources of food all that time. And that seeking, that dopamine seeking brain where you're like, that's all you're narrowing in on. So it almost seems like, where did all that time go? Right. So seeking the food, eating the food, dealing with the aftermath of the food, the lost productivity, all of that gone.
Yeah, and you talked earlier about sometimes we think the consequences or the cost are only in terms of our physical health and maybe the weight gain that that results from binging. So if we're only focused on that, there's also a cost to focusing on that. And I'll kind of explain what I mean by that is you mentioned
Mm,
the aftermath of a binge. So you feel bad, you lose all that time to physically feeling bad. And then you think, okay, I have to fix this. Now, for me, it was like hours and hours and hours of exercise, right? So I was only focusing on that
me
physical
too.
cost, right? So then you're spending tons of time trying to fix one of the costs that, that's actually another cost, right? The time spent to try to compensate.
1,000,000%, 1,000,000%. There's the time spent fixing it. Exactly. It's like dealing with the aftermath. And that could be cleaning up the wrappers all over the house. I mean, my kitchen would look like a tornado hit it, like dealing with all of that. But then also, how am I going to fix this? How much exercise do I need to do? Calculating macros, like whatever it is, searching for diet plans, hiring other people. Like it's just maddening how much time is lost. And also, think about it, like it's not just like you spent a day in the gym, I would spend a day in the gym, all of that stuff, but it's also all of that time that you're in the gym trying to fix it that you're not giving to truly pressing things in your life.
Yeah.
Then there are the relationship costs, canceling plans, wanting to isolate, not being fully present, canceling trips, canceling meals out, canceling going, showing up at events, all of that, huge relationship costs. Maybe not actually ever being your true self with other people because you're doing this behavior that you feel ashamed of, so you can never be authentic.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I remember for sure feeling that way. And I know people I've worked with feel the same way. They feel like they have to avoid social events. They feel like they have to avoid seeing certain people or doing certain things that they really love and enjoy because of the way they feel about themselves, whether that's the way they look or the shame they feel from having eaten so much, or maybe trying to avoid eating in certain
Yep.
social situations. So, yeah, that relationship cost is huge.
Huge, huge. And even not going to doctor's appointments, like missing out on healthcare, like caring for yourself, your relationship with yourself, like being out of integrity with yourself. There are so many relationship costs to this. And then, of course, the financial costs. Like there is a true financial cost. Binging is expensive. It is a very expensive habit, right? Like there's the money spent on binge foods, which, and if anybody was like me, I would be buying food, eating some of it, but I couldn't eat it all, throwing out the rest of it or giving it away because surely I was never going to do that again, and then buying it back again, and sometimes in the same day, and doing the same thing over again. So there's all the money spent on binge food. Then the lack of productivity, lack of creativity because you're operating from a very diminished brain, being less engaged at work, missing work. I would call out because I was so sick I couldn't go in, missing work, having an erratic schedule, being late, needing to have clothes in all different sizes to deal with whatever was going on with the fluctuations in the body, not showing up fully, not able to be your best, lack of confidence, which impacts how you show up. I mean, all of that, so many costs.
Yeah.
Hiring coaches and trainers and therapists and programs and books,
Yeah,
supplements,
for sure.
hypnotism. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, always looking for that cure. And like you said, the cost of the food itself is huge. And as we know, the price of food is continuing to go up, and it's
Oh
very
my
difficult
gosh.
to even afford normal amounts of food. And when you start talking about the amounts that I used to consume in binges, that you used to consume in binges, like this is very, very expensive habit.
Yes. Yes.
So it's important to come to the reality of that and think about, this money that I'm spending here, how can it better serve me? Where can I actually be putting my money that would align with my integrity?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so obviously we don't need to stay there, but so it's like the infinite potential in living binge free, like I'm just putting it out there for everybody listening, like being binge free immediately right now, making that decision. I'm not binging anymore. Like that is behind me. That is there's so much value that you're adding to your life just with that decision immediately, right? Because again, taking this weight out of the equation, as I always say, like regardless of what size you are right now, because I know that that matters to everyone or most people when they're dealing with this habit, but taking that completely out of the equation, there is so much value added back into your life from that decision to be binge free. your health, your mood, your digestion improve almost immediately. One day binge free, you can have improvements there. You can start showing up more fully in life. You regain that brain space pretty quickly. Couple of days binge free, the brain fog is lifted, your capacity to be fully present is back, your productivity increases, and it just gets better and better and better. Right? It's exponential, right? There's compound improvement over time with being binge free. Just like there's compound, net negatives when you're binging, but there are compound improvements when we're binge free.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it can be hard to see it when you're stuck in the habit, but once you're out of the habit, and even like you said, even one day, really notice the value that you experience. Notice the value in, again,
Yeah,
your presence, in notice how much money you save. Really think about how much would I have spent if I would have binged today. Think about how much time you would have spent and where you can put that time. So really notice
exactly.
and even write down those value points and where you see
Oh,
the
yeah.
benefit.
Oh, yeah. I always encourage people, and I know you do too, to track all of those non-weight benefits that come up from living binge free, including cost, including presence, including creativity and productivity, showing up fully in a meeting without worrying about what I ate before or what I might eat after, because you're embracing fullness, like we talked about last time, and you're truly sated and you can be fully present and you're nourishing yourself well. It's amazing. And then, of course, notice how much am I saving on groceries? Really track it. Like, notice. Think about like how much did I spend last week when I was binging and how much am I spending this week because I'm not binging? Notice that. Notice the time that you're saving. How much time did I lose last week and how much time have I regained? Right? Like start to notice that. We did that podcast on noticing progress. Like notice those improvements in time, in money, in brain space. Do you have new ideas? And then the other thing that can start to happen when people have that consistent binge-free life is that suddenly new pathways to earn money start to become available, right? Because suddenly you regained all this brain space and you're like, wait a second, I could apply for that job, or I've got an idea for a new product or I'm going to apply for a new position. I'm going to ask for a promotion because you start to feel more like yourself, more confident, all of that.
Yeah, the value a lot of times is in the opportunity it gives you, right? The
Yeah,
opportunity to pursue the interest that you want to pursue, because when you're stuck in the habit, it's just so easy to isolate, to hide your true self, to not be
yeah,
authentic, to not put yourself out there, to not take those kind of risks in the world because you are just so stuck in that habit. So,
yep,
yeah, I think all this is super important to see because, like I alluded to in the beginning, the lower brain will try to tell you binging is not a big deal. You can just binge, everything will be fine tomorrow, start over tomorrow. It's going to make you feel better. It's what you need right now. I mean, those messages are so tempting and they can feel so real in the moment. But when you really have this solid foundation that we're talking about of recognizing the cost, really coming to terms with those, recognizing the value, really being inspired by that, when those lower brain messages come up, you'll be much more likely to see them as junk, to see them as
that's right.
just a product of the habit. So that's really, I think, what this does is it really solidifies your desire to recover in your higher brain.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Exactly. And, so everybody listening, like just imagine that, visualize that. Today, you can regain all of that value in your life. Like that's the push here. It's like reclaiming all the value that you add to the world that you can bring back into your life. And as soon as today, because your weight has nothing to do with your worth. What you ate yesterday has nothing to do with your worth. And making that decision that no matter what, I don't binge starting now, or you continue on. If you've been binge free, amazing. Keep going. But start to notice all of those ways that the value in your life starts to increase with every day that you are binge free.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to mention here that the value is also in being able to handle bad things in your life as well, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
as we always
Mm-hmm.
remind you, we don't want to paint this overly rosy picture of recovery, right? Recovery is just continuing on with life as a binge-free person, and life can be very
Right.
difficult, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Emotions, sadness, loneliness, we all have problems, right? But there's value in being able to face those problems head on
Yes. Yes.
without the binging distracting you, without being stuck in the gym for hours and hours, right? So
Ugh,
just because
yes.
you feel sad, just because you have problems, just because you have difficult emotions, that doesn't then give binging value. Like I think what
Right.
the lower brain does, and I've been talking about the lower brain's false messages, is it will say, life is hard, so you might as well go back to binging. That's what's going to help you. But you have to see through the lies of that. You have to see, no, there's value in being present, in allowing these emotions, in just being with whatever is happening in my life without, that habit.
Exactly. I mean, it's all that. It's all that. And it's like, so, and, I can hear people saying, yeah, but I'm so far gone. Yeah, but, there's no hope for me. Here's another one that like I really had to work around was, um, forgiving myself and releasing the grief for my lost time, my lost money, my lost relationships, all those years of my daughter's life that I wasn't fully present because I was engaging in that behavior. I had to truly just let it all go and say, I am here now. This is where I am. This is what I'm doing now. Because feeling regret, it's okay to say, okay, like I don't love those choices that I made, but I'm going to learn from it. And I've been spiraling up and I'm moving forward from here. So again, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, how much money was lost, how much time was lost. This is where you are. And what are you going to do moving forward? Because you have now and it can just get better and better and better.
Yeah, that's such a great point because it is a thought process that we see sometimes is, oh, it's already cost me too much. So what's the point in stopping now? And that is, I do think that's one of those lower brain thoughts that pushes you and tempts you to binge. But like we always say, no one ever is happy they binge. No matter how long you've been binging, if you binge again, you're never going to be like, oh, yeah, I'm really glad I did that. That really helped me in my life.
Of
That
course
really
not. Right.
gave me,
Exactly.
right? Like, no one ever says a binge gives them value. It gives you no value.
No value.
But no matter how long you've been binging, stopping now is going to give you value,
Immediate
even if,
value. Immediate.
exactly.
Talk about instant gratification. Like you can feel better today. You can feel better in a few hours. You can put your head on the pillow and say, I did that. Go me. I'm in my integrity.
Yeah,
Pretty
I really
amazing.
love that. That's a great little mindset shift because we think of binging as the immediate gratification, right? Yeah, like that's what our habit pushes us toward. That's what those faulty brain messages say, right? Binging is the gratification. No, like feeling better is the gratification. And when you can start to see that and really feel that, it just changes everything.
Yep, exactly. So, I really hope that as everybody's listening, like they start to imagine, visualize that new life for yourself, visualize at the end of today having that boost to your self-esteem and seeing like I can do that. I can do it one day at a time, one meal at a time, one urge at a time, one breath at a time. Of course, as long as you're eating adequately, right? And and then you just start walking towards that beautiful life full of so much new value.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned eating adequately because that brings so much value too, right? We talk about the effects of physically stuffing yourself from binging are awful and then trying to compensate for that. But the effects of walking around hungry and not eating enough and not giving yourself enough protein and fats and carbohydrates, right? Like you are walking around depleted. Their energy is depleted. You lose time and
Exactly.
energy to that too. So know that there's so much value in eating adequately for your
Hmm.
life as a whole, but also it's absolutely necessary for recovery.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and we've talked about eating adequately. And I know that for the listeners and for people we've worked with, this is not always an easy thing, right? If you've been dieting, if you've been restricting food and binging for many years, it can feel difficult to learn how to eat normally and really figure out a formula for your own body. And then also on the other side, I always talk about there's two goals of recovery. There's eating adequately and there's dismissing urges. And we've been talking about that in the podcast as well, like dismissing these faulty messages from your brain that say binging has value and really realizing with your higher brain that recovery has value. So
Hmm.
to get to that place of recovery, we're not looking at, just spending money on all these quick fixes like we are talking about before and the magic supplement and the next thing that's going to cure me
Right.
instantly, right? But there can be obviously some very important things you need to do to help yourself learn to eat enough food, to help yourself learn to recognize these messages from the lower brain. And this is what we help people do every day.
Exactly. This is exactly what we help people with in the group and in our coaching all the time. And the thing is that there are legitimate ways to invest your time, your money, your energy towards recovery that will have added value for a lifetime because you're going to be regaining your freedom. I mean, I certainly have invested time and money and energy into recovery with you, with certain people in order to heal from this. And that is another way of adding value, right? Because when you do that, you're regaining your time and you're regaining your brain space and you're regaining belief in yourself in community with the support of some guidance. All of that leads to help regaining the ability to eat adequately, to expect and allow urges, dismiss urges, all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, the people who do put that time and energy into the things that help them recover recoup the most value in the long run. People who are listening to the
Absolutely.
course audios every day, people who are posting on the group forum, people who are really using those resources do end up seeing the most benefits and getting rid of all
Absolutely.
those costs.
Absolutely, absolutely, exponentially. Yeah, and so to that end, coming up in if you're listening to the podcast in real time, coming up on the 23rd of August, so I'm going to be leading a retreat from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern to help people with this very thing, right? To help people step into that life binge free, that life free of this behavior that's been taking so much value out of your life, to add value back into your life.
Yeah, Julie, thank you for sharing that. I'll put a link to the retreat information in the show description, and it's going to be just a lot of mindfulness-based strategies and tools you can use in the moments of urges to recognize the urges and also, to learn to help nourish yourself as well. And you'll be able to ask Julie questions, you'll be able to get some personalized coaching. It's just going to be a really valuable 2 hours.
Very valuable, right? Exactly. It's that idea of, it's like sometimes we need to spend, right? Like we need to spend time, we need to spend some money sometimes to help with our recovery. That's just the fact of it. But it's very important to be discerning about that. And for example, in this retreat, I hope people feel like this is a great way to spend your time, right? Really committing to recovery. And, I love to offer this retreat in the end of August because I always think of, I'm a teacher, so I always think of September as the new January. It's just a time of year, like we're entering into fall here on the East Coast, and there's just this feeling of a new beginning. And so it's a really great way to connect with others and get some very intense support as you're trying to create that binge-free life for yourself. So as you mentioned, there'll be a lot of guided meditations, there'll be coaching, there'll be different strategies and tools given, and also, on the spot coaching for whatever's arising for you on that day. And the other thing about the retreat is that it is part of the value of being a member of the Brain Over Binge group is you get access to the retreats that I offer. So if you're in the group, it's just part of your membership. And if you were thinking about joining the group, now's a great time because in addition to the weekly coaching with me and the monthly coaching with you and the daily written coaching from me, you also get access to the retreat on Friday, August 23rd at 1 o'clock.
For sure. And access to all the recordings of the previous retreats as well. I hope that you all listening will check out the retreat information in the show description. And also, Julie, thank you so much for sharing all of your thoughts and insights around the value of being binge free.
Thanks, Kathryn. Always great to spend time with you.